حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Jummah Mubarak and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Inshallah, we'll have few announcements before the prayer. Let's first remember all of our Muslim Ummah across the globe for their happiness, health and prosperity. Allahumma ameen. A special dua for our Muslim and sister brothers and sisters in Gaza. As you know, they are suffering. May Allah alleviate their suffering and make things easier for them. Allahumma ameen. Dr. Nasser Al-Alawi passed away yesterday in Lebanon. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah forgive his shortcomings and grant him Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen. Sister Nazila Khan Qadir in Florida is very ill. Please continue to make dua for her. May Allah give her Shifa Kulli. Ameen. Sister Maryam in Turkey is in intensive care for a heart disease. May Allah give her speedy recovery and Shifa Kulli. Allahumma ameen. Jazakallah khair for sponsoring Ramadan iftars. All Friday iftars have been reserved. If you would like to sponsor Saturday iftar, please see us in the office after the prayer. Today we have La Riba Bank with us. Please see their table on the way out. Please turn off your cell phones and other gadgets and pay full attention to the khutbah. Our community iftar will be today, inshallah. We're looking for some volunteers. If you would like to volunteer and help us set up the tables and chairs, please come to the masjid at 5 p.m. so we can make all the arrangements for the iftar. Also, a very humble request from you. We have still few brothers, they are parking their cars on the red lines, either during Jummah prayer or in the Isha and Trawiyah prayer. Please try not to park there. It's for your own safety. Finally, our khatib today is Brother Thomas Alameddine. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: اتق الله حيثما كنت، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله الكريم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Alhamdulillah, we reached the month of Ramadan. This is a month for us to heal our hearts, a month for us to turn to Allah Ta'ala's words, a month for us to stand in prayer and to fast so we can really have those words soak into our souls and we can understand them and act upon them. But we also know that this month of Ramadan, it's different from all the other months of Ramadan that any of us have experienced. And it would be wrong for us to ignore that. We know that this month of Ramadan, it's more important than ever for us not to just stand in the Taraweeh as we listen to the words of Allah Ta'ala with our heads bowed, but then we leave the masjid and start acting in a way that's different from that. We know that we have to follow up that reverence that we have for the words of Allah Ta'ala with action. And hopefully all of us were in the Taraweeh this week when we heard the ayah from Allah Ta'ala where He tells us, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُونُوا قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Where Allah Ta'ala, He says, "O you who believe," it's part of your faith. If you believe, then what's Allah Ta'ala telling us to do? Be people who stand for justice, witnesses for Allah Ta'ala, even if it's against your own selves. And that's a difficult thing for us to do. That's a hard thing for us to do in this day and age. So I want to remind you and myself of a saying of the greatest companion of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. That when he was a Khalifa, the Ummah faced problems. They were facing the Romans and they were facing the Persians. They were facing Musaylama al-Kadhab. They were facing people who were also playing with the deen of Allah Ta'ala. They were playing with the zakah. And with all of these different problems that were going on, some of the Sahaba Kiram, they thought that the zakah issue, this was something that we shouldn't really be focusing on right now. We should focus on the bigger picture, the bigger problems facing us. And they argued about it back and forth. They had consultation. And then Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he said something to put an end to all the debate. And his words are recorded in history when he said, "Can there be a deficiency in the deen of Allah? Can there be a detraction, a naqs in the deen of Allah, and Abu Bakr is alive?" This was his attitude. And it silenced all the other Sahaba. So I want you to ask yourself and to imagine, what would somebody like Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu an say today? What would somebody like Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab al-Faruq radiyallahu an, what would he say today when you have thousands of children who've been slaughtered in the Holy Land? We're not talking about a fine point for zakah. We're not talking about a small aspect of sharia. We're talking about the sacred humanity of children that's been stolen in the Holy Land. More children in the past 5 months than all the children in all the conflicts in the entire world over the past 5 years put together. What would somebody say in a situation like that? What would a man like that do in a time like this? And this is the month of the Quran, this is the month of fasting, this is the month of Ramadan, but it's also a different month than all the other Ramadans we've had, so we have to rise to that occasion. We have to treat this month a little bit differently than we would normally because we're in different circumstances. So if it's our job to be people who stand for justice, قَوَّامِينَ بِالْقِسْطِ شُهَدَاءَ لِلَّهِ وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ, then what does that mean for us in this month? It means the first thing that we have to do is we can't give up hope. And one aspect of giving hope is saying there's always problems, so why even bother with it? There's always going to be issues. But I, for one, refuse to believe that genocide, live streamed to the entire world, should be a normalized thing for us that we're just okay with. That a normalized thing is just people dying every single day by the hundreds while they seek food for their iftar. They don't have food for their suhoor. Their children starve in front of them. If this is the month of shukr, then we have to think about all of these different blessings that we have that's been deprived of other people. The ulama kiram, they say that if we were to have proper shukr for Allah Ta'ala, then even for one of your kids, that one blessing, you would fall down in sajda for the rest of your life. And parents, we know that. This is the month of gratitude. And there's two things that mental health experts, they say that you and I need to have a healthy mental state, especially in a time like this. The first is a sense of shukr, a sense of gratitude. Because if you don't have gratitude, then you have nothing to wake up for in the morning. You have no reason to get out of your bed and to live your life. So how do we cultivate a sense of gratitude in this time? We think about all the blessings that we have that other people don't have. Right now we're in a beautiful masjid, alhamdulillah. Over 1,000 masajid have been bombed in the Holy Land. 1,000. People praying salah in the streets on loudspeakers with small lights or no light at all in the dark. What would we say if even the electricity was cut off for one day here? People would go home and say, what happened at the masjid? Say, there was no electricity. It was really hot. We couldn't, and the lights were off even though it's broad daylight. That's how we would feel. Allah Ta'ala, He mentioned two blessings that He gave to the Quraysh, and because of those two blessings, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. So let people worship the Lord of the house. One of those blessings is safety from fear. Safety from fear. If we didn't have this blessing right now in this moment, nobody could hear a single word that I'm saying if your safety was taken away from you. The second blessing is food against hunger. And we've seen how there's a man-made famine being inflicted upon children and innocent people whose only crime was to be born in the largest concentration camp on the planet right now. So we know that if we think about these blessings, then a feeling should well up in our heart and it should rise up to our speech and we say, Alhamdulillah. But you and I both know to simply utter those hollowed words, it's not enough. You have to couple that thankfulness by using the blessings that Allah Ta'ala gave you the way that He intended you to use them. And that leads us to the second thing that a person needs to have a healthy mental state is to have a sense of agency and empowerment, that you have work to do. You have to take those blessings and you have to use them. And this is not a burden that you carry, it's something that liberates you because you know there's something that you can do in this time to rise to this occasion so that you get on the right side of this with God. And we know that even if we lived in a perfect society where everybody had a roof over their head and a bed to sleep in at night, where everybody had a full stomach, where everybody had education and work and health care, and some of us, we've enjoyed all those blessings our whole life. But we know that even if we lived in a society like that, and such a person raised in a society like that, were to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, and he doesn't have iman, that person would wish he had never been born. Why do I say that? Because your job and my job is always there to preach and teach and tell people about iman. It's never going to stop. But we're not talking about somebody realizing the purpose of their life in this moment. We're not talking about understanding how to purify our hearts. We're talking about something so basic, stopping the senseless slaughter of children. So how do we not lose hope in a time like that? But then I remind you, isn't this the dunya? Isn't this the lowest level of our existence? Isn't this the place where shaitan runs amok? And the shayateen amongst the jinn are chained up in this month, alhamdulillah. But you still see the shayateen amongst humanity that are running wild. The pen devils when they write their headlines, so that you don't even know who's killing and who's being killed. That these people are being starved and they're blamed for their own starvation, their own genocide. We still see people turning the world upside down. But isn't that the name of what shaitan means? It means that one who takes things and turns them upside down, inverts them, so that reality, it seems opposite of what it is. Allah Ta'ala made him as an abd, but He said, I'm going to disobey you. He reversed the relationship. And we see that happening today. So when we see that, we have two options. You can raise up your hands, throw your hands in the air, and say 4 takbirs over this world. Read a funeral prayer over this dunya. And then you can go back to your cycle of 24/7 outrage and cynicism. Or you can roll up your sleeves and you can get to work. Because another one of the names of shaitan is Iblis. And the scholars, they tell us that the name Iblis, it comes from Ablasa, the one who gave up hope. And Allah Ta'ala, He tells us that shaitan is your enemy, so take him as an enemy. That means if he gave up hope, we cling to it and we never give up hope. It means that if he turns the world upside down, you and I have to work to make it right again. It means if we take the statement of that shaitan, the prime minister of the Zionist entity, who said that he's going to fight until complete victory. And what does he mean by complete victory? The total annihilation of the Palestinian people. Ethnic cleansing and genocide and murder and famine. Then it's your job and my job to turn that statement back on its head and to say that we're going to struggle, we're going to work for complete victory when every single person's humanity is recognized as the sacred gift that it is from God. When every single child's humanity is recognized as a sacred right that they have the right to grow up as children. When every single person in the Holy Land can live as brothers and sisters like they used to do before Zionism came onto the scene. We never give up hope. But that's a huge task. It's such a large task. How can we do that? How can we work for this when it seems like the whole world is against us? How can we have sources of inspiration to give us hope in times like this? And the answer to that is you need look no further than the people of Palestine themselves. We saw months ago in November when they had the prisoner exchange, and one of the women, she came out of the Zionist jails. She came out and she was welcoming her family, and she was saying hi to them for the first time in God knows how many years, after seeing God knows what she saw in those dungeons. And she had her arm around one of her relatives or friends, and she turned to the camera to answer the reporters, and she said, what? She said, we are a people who take pain and we turn it into miracles. We're a people who take pain and turn it into miracles. And you see these young men going out into their streets like Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam. They have no armor on. And they're facing these giant machines of death day after day after day. I think since the 7th of October, the one thought that has constantly come to me is that I'm in complete awe of these people. Amazed by them. If it weren't for the kalima, La ilaha illallah, I would say I have nothing in common with these people. One of the great Palestinian poets, he describes the people of Gaza, that it's women who are without frivolous desires, and it's old men who aren't affected by old age. I've wondered over and over and over again, if these people have left a shred of courage for you and I to pick up, so we can stand in front of Allah Ta'ala and say that we've had some courage in this time. Have they left a scrap of good for you and I to pick up, so we can say that we've done good in this time, so we can rise to this occasion and do what Allah Ta'ala is asking us to do, to stand for justice. But it's not just what they do that amazes us and that gives us inspiration. It's also what they say. So when they're asked about this, when they're asked about their situation, what's it like to be raised in the largest open-air prison on the face of this earth? They don't say, we're the wretched of the earth. They don't say, these people robbed me of my childhood. They don't say that they killed our poets before they could publish their poetry. And if they had said those things, they'd be 100% true. But that's not what they say. We talked about two things for a healthy mental state: gratitude and agency. What do they say? They say, Alhamdulillah, that Allah Ta'ala chose me to defend His house, the Baytul Maqdis. Allah Ta'ala chose them. That's what they say. So I ask you on this blessed first Friday of this blessed month of Ramadan, did Allah Ta'ala choose you? Did Allah Ta'ala choose you to defend His house, the Baytul Maqdis? Did Allah Ta'ala choose you for this auspicious and noble goal? And this dunya is a dark and scary place. But one beautiful thing about this dunya is that if you ask that question sincerely of yourself, and you work to answer it in a positive manner, then you will have your answer in front of your very eyes. You do this work to help the children who are being killed and starved to death, and that means that you were chosen for this path. It means that you were chosen for this work. And that's why we do this, because it's the command of Allah. We don't just listen to the Quran in this month. We try to do amal on every single ayah that we see, on every single hadith from Sayyidina Rasulullah that we hear. And that's why we stand for justice. That's why we work for this cause. Even though we know that this dunya is upside down, you and I are going to work to set it right. Even though we know that we're working in this world as a prison, one day we're going to be released. Even though we know that everything on the face of this planet is going to perish, we still plant the seeds of hope, because that's the sunnah of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The one who stood in Ramadan and fasting and praying, the one who gave charity, but also the one in whose Ramadan he stood for justice and he marched on Badr. It was also in Ramadan that Sayyidina Rasulullah and 100,000 of his companions radiallahu anhum, they marched on Meccatul Mukarramah and they opened it up without a single drop of blood. That's the sunnah of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bringing justice wherever he went. But then that leads us to the biggest question of all. What do we do in our time? What can we do? You can talk and give flowery words and say all these things, but what can we do? And that question is absolutely essential. But sometimes we ask it with the wrong mindset. We live in a world where everything comes quick and easy. You want something, so you tap on your phone a few times and it magically appears on your front door a day or two later. So we think that if I put in the efforts ABC, then I should see the results XYZ. But it doesn't work like that. Didn't people in Algeria and in India and in Pakistan and in China and in Vietnam, didn't they have to work for hundreds of years so they could be freed of their colonial oppressors? Weren't the Crusaders in the Holy Land for 200 years before they were liberated from their oppressors? Didn't the people of Ireland have to struggle for 800 years to be freed from the man-made famines that were inflicted upon their children? No, this is a path that you don't simply dedicate 1 minute to drop some money in a box, or 5 minutes to get on the phone with your senator or your representative, even though everybody should do it. I did it before, I'm going to do it again in this month just for the thawab of it. It's not just something that you spend one day at a protest for. This is a cause that is so auspicious that you dedicate your entire life to it. You dedicate your entire life to this cause and for standing for justice, because this is a unique issue. You know, reporters, they say that the Palestinian issue is a gateway issue because it opens your eyes to all the other problems. I'll give you one example. Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Shaitan lays his egg in the market. Shaitan lays his egg in the market. The first time I heard this hadith, I had no idea what it meant. And I didn't know what it meant until an Imam from South Africa, Imam Junaid Kharsani, may Allah Ta'ala protect him and give him long life, he said, you can't think of small markets like the swap meet. It's not talking about markets like your local grocery store where you buy your milk and your eggs and your fruits and your vegetables. You have to think of larger markets like Wall Street, like the stock market. Shaitan lays his egg in the market. It's enough proof for this hadith that Wall Street used to be a slave market in colonial times. So when you look at the stock market, every time there's a conflict in the world, what happens? Those weapons manufacturers, their stocks rise, they go up. Boeing and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, they make money every single time. And you couple that with the fact that just a couple weeks ago, your and my representatives took your and my tax dollars and they say it's forbidden to send any of that money to UNRWA that's giving medicine and food and shelter and education to the victims of a genocide. It's forbidden to spend that money in that way. And the same time, on the same bill, they earmarked billions of dollars for weapons and death machines to be sent to kill those people. And then you realize those people aren't taking money from their pockets and sending it overseas to people they're caring about. They're taking your and my tax dollars and they're writing a big fat corporate welfare check to companies that over half of our representatives are invested in. They're taking money that belongs to you and me and they're paying their own dividends on their investments on it. Because Shaitan hatches his plan in the market. That's what it means. That's what it comes back to. And this is just one aspect of the Palestinian issue that opens your eyes to all the other issues. So then you take that, because we're people in this country, we love our neighbors, we love the folks around us. And that's why we have to bear witness, وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ, even if it's against our own selves. So we go to them and we tell them why we live in a place where there's a homeless person on every other corner, why the teachers in the schools don't have enough funding, why people don't have jobs, why people can't get health care in this country, because they're taking your money and my money and they're lining their pockets with it. You have to stand for justice on every single issue, and this issue opens your eyes to the justice, ya ikhwan. That's what it does. So you and me, we have to dedicate our entire lives to this cause. So if we're going to dedicate our entire lives to this cause, who am I to stand here for 25 minutes and tell you how to live your whole life? It's impossible. What you have to do and what I have to do is to ask ourselves, what talents and skills do I have that I can use for this cause, so I can stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Yawm al-Qiyamah and say that I did what I could for this auspicious goal of freeing your house, Baytul Maqdis, and standing for the sacred right to live of those children in the Holy Land. For some people, what does that mean? If you're a businessman and you have money, you could donate. Everybody can donate. But what if you get together with other people, your businessmen friends, and you start a business to be a waqf for the people of Palestine? Right now, everything's closed. There's enough food to feed all the people of Gaza, but it's not allowed in due to this man-made famine. But between this Ramadan and next Ramadan, inshallah, things will open up. So you make your sacred intention right now that maybe if there's any doctors or dentists and you have vacation time coming up, that you'll go to them wherever they are and you'll give them free health care and free dental care. And for any of the students who are on campus, you have the most important job. That how can you use your time not just to care about your transcripts, not just to care about your grades, not just to care about gathering up dunya in the rest of your life, because this is the month of Ramadan, this is the month of Zuhud. That how can you use your time to spread awareness about this cause so that more people can know the truth, so we can change the way that our leaders behave in this country and stand for justice. Each of us can do something. But if this is a cause that you're supposed to dedicate your entire life for, as Allah Ta'ala is telling us to be people who stand for justice, then that's not something that I can figure out for you. Each of us has to figure out for ourselves. And then when you do that work, and you stand before the iftar, and you're praying so much that your hands are going to fall, or you're at night and you're in the tahajjud and your legs are tired and you're about to collapse, and you think, I've done everything I can, but it's not enough. Then you remember that the shaheed, if he were to come back into this world, the person who made the ultimate sacrifice, what would he say? He would say that he wishes that he could come back and make the same sacrifice again and again and again. Why? Because this is the haqq, because this is the truth, and you and I are supposed to be witnesses to that truth. Since the 7th of October, some people, all they could do is cry. Some people stood up and they spoke. Some people, they went to protest and they raised their voices. Some people, they donated to the widows and the orphans and the survivors of this genocide. And in every single case, we must remember, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. That Allah Ta'ala doesn't burden any of us more than we can bear. So we do this work. We cling to hope. We get inspired by people who made sacrifices more than any of us can imagine. And we dedicate our lives to standing as witnesses for Allah Ta'ala, because this is the haqq that Sayyidina Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam came with. And when we're tired and we have no more words, then Allah Ta'ala, He began the ayah with La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wasa'aha, and He ended it for words for us to speak when we have no more words. Wa'afu anna, waghfir lana, warhamna, anta mawlana, fansurna ala al-qawmi al-kafirin. That Ya Allah, pardon us for our weakness. Forgive us for our lack of efforts. Have mercy on us in this situation. You're our protector. Give us victory over people who reject the truth. May Allah Ta'ala give victory to the people of Gaza. And may Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq from His pure fadl, from His pure karam, that we have a hand in that victory. Wa akhir da'wana an alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعلى عدوهم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا وأزواجه وذريته. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، وأقضاهم علي، وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة، والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة، وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسولي. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولدي مغفرة ظاهرة باطنة لا تغادر ذنبا. الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي، فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم، ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم، وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقيم الصلاة إن الصلاة على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Please move forward as much as you can, fill in all the gaps. Make room for people in the back, inshallah. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
سمع الله لمن حمده. Actually, kindly say it سمع. سمع. This is the word فعل. فعل الماضي مبني على الفتح. In Arabic language in the grammar مبني على الفتح. مبني على الضم. سمعوا. سمع مبني على الفتح. كتب. سافر. أكل. شرب. سمع. ضرب. أي. So it has فتح. So kindly, if you say, this will be great because you have very beautiful everything, almost, mashallah. And it's only to say, سمع. سمع الله لمن حمده. Kindly, you know.